So many voices, styles, singing to fast rapping to innovative intonations and enunciations in his voice, creative song structure to boot.
Go subscribe, subscribe.
Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome to Brews and Reviews. It's knowledge. Today I'm reviewing JID, the forever story. It's finally here. Stay tuned. I'm going to tell you about JID's strengths and weaknesses as an artist, point out some dope lyrics and metaphors, but also places where his boss is better than him as an artist. And ultimately, I'll give you an honest rating of the album, breaking down the best and worst tracks as we go forward. So JID is one of the few artists that underground and mainstream fans can agree on. This is one of the most anticipated albums of the year, and it's properly titled The Forever Story because I feel like that's my story and how long I've been waiting for this damn thing to drop. Dicaprio 2 came out in like 2018, and his popularity has only grown in the past 3 years despite not releasing another solo album until now, but he damn sure made his presence known with his guest appearances and what he did on the Spillage Village album. This, of course, is the spiritual successor to his debut album, The Never Story. Let's get to it. Galaxy, nice continuity here because this starts with the exact same lyrics that the Never Story started with, although they're sung a bit differently, and he also adds forever can't be too far away from never, and I guess that's true, even though it has been a long gap in time between those two albums. Raydar, I know you're feeling this one. This features the Last Poets. Last time I heard these guys was on The Corner from Common's 2005 album, B, produced by Kanye. So it's kind of cool that he put them on here. And JID wastes no time getting to spitting, telling us about himself and his style that you can play for your mama and the hoes, and also telling us about the people around him, which will be a theme for the album. And you realize his flow is just warming up until he gets to the beat switch on verse 3, going 50 plus bars, and the beat switches upon beat switches upon beat switches. Very meta with it here, but he's kind of setting the tone and the style for what the album is going to be like. Lyrically, he likens himself to some kind of rap god, saying, a beast awoke and I peel at the kraken. They inferior in fear when I'm rapping, but I ain't rapping, this is spiritual. Shed a tear so it'll curate when miracles happen. Dance Now, crazy sample from Dreamville in-house producer Christo. This features fellow Atlanta MC Kenny Mason, who has been a frequent collaborator, and he's featured in other spots on this project also. And we get a nice metaphor from JID. He says, they just gonna let the Beretta fly cause you buggin' spray pesticides. He's hinting that this song ain't really about dancing. You can't dance to JID. It's about making people dance in the old Western sense. And on verse 2, JID probably furthers comparisons to K-Dot by switching up the voice and cadence. Crack Sandwich, dope track, dope beat. No doubt some people's favorite on this album. But I gotta give my first criticism though, that JID will spit some iffy bars that casual hip hop fans will maybe mislabel lyrical if they actually catch what's going on. Like when he says, first take, go to first base, Stephen A. Smith West on the hill talking shit like Skip, or Shannon Sharp shooting off the top of the cliff. On the surface, this seems like a little semi-wordplay that he's bringing in the names of sports talk show hosts, and he's mixing that with terminology for busting guns, but at the same time, it doesn't really mean anything. He didn't have to bring these names in. It doesn't add to the further verse or the story that he's trying to tell, so it doesn't really make sense. He redeems himself quickly though with this line. He says, put in my 10,000 hours while the clock still ticks, meaning he's already mastered this shit, but he's still getting better. There's another beat switch, and every track on this album, it seems like, has a beat switch. And this is a dope technique so far that we've heard, because every time the beat switch happens, he accelerates his flow, leaving the best verse for last, making it very climactic. However, stay tuned a little bit longer, and I'll tell you the problem with the beat switches. Can't Punk Me, K Tronada on the beat, and this also features his Village, Brethren, EARTHGANG, and their album from this year wasn't really hitting like it should have been to me. Best track on that was the one with JID, but they got some lines on here though, especially Dr. Dot saying, "Death is freedom, some deserve worse." And I think everybody preferred Johnny Venus when we all first started listening to EARTHGANG, but Dot's been holding it down even more lately, in my opinion. Surround sound, flipping the same sample that Mos Def used on Miss Fat Booty, very recognizable, but of course he's showing love to Mos on this album too, so you can tell JID is coming from the right place and acknowledging that Mos used this first. JID's warping his voice a bit to provide a unique flow on this. 21 Savage coming through, trying to recreate what he did with J. Cole on The Great a lot, almost coming through with a similar flow to what he had on that album. And hell, that may be how 21 Savage always sounds. I'm not sure, because I only check with him when he's working with a superior MC. And there's a really nice flip of this sample at the end, slowing it down for yet another beat switch. Cody Blue 31, bit of a spiritual and a tribute to his dead friend Cody Blue, really in the vein now of Spillage Village, and JID proves on this that he can sing too. In the rap verse though, he gets a little less spiritual as he's talking about various people he had to fight, talking about how he had 50 dudes with him to jump a dude named Peewee. Not sure if that makes you sound tough, JID. You had 50 dudes to take on Peewee, but it's probably one of those huge dudes named Peewee running him. Stripped down beat, very interesting beat with no drums and not much low end at first, but lots of strings. I'm not really feeling this vibe, but this is a different style for Lil Durk in particular, and I think that he shows that he can hang with this, even though I'm not always a fan of this dude. Systonym. And then we realized it was a two-parter because the first one's about his brothers, this one's about his sister. I feel like this is one of the best, more straightforward songs, dope, introspective beat and chorus. In a way, it reminds me of Kendrick's Lust in the sonic sound of it, and a beat switch in verse 3 that's done right, because it doesn't sound like it's a separate song, but it just flips the beginning parts in a different way. And he's really on some deeper personal lyrics on this track than he has been so far, talking about his relationship with his sister and seeming very sincere, as he says in the end, "I know you got to feel the animosity brewing. It's getting bad and I'm sad our relationship ruined over some trash. But it's the past that send me all the money that I gave you over Cash App back since you've been." And it's only to be cut off by a dial tone from his sister hanging up on him or not taking his calls. Very personal. And because of that, because this is JID's most lyrical, I'm going to drink to this track. I am sipping on an Angry Scotsman, Gateway to Hellas. This is very local to me, but really has nothing to do with this album, but it's what I had, and it's a great beer, and it's the season for this. It's the fall. Let's get back to the album. Can't Make You Change. Ari Lennox getting very bluesy on the chorus and almost stealing the show on this track until JID's last verse, himself arguing with his brain and lust. He says, want to change, trying hard as I can, but it's hard to try to redesign the nature of man. D&D, she and my DM for my DNA strands and fall for the scam. Then again, I'm fighting off all the thoughts in my pants. Stars, featuring the Black Star himself, Yasiin Bey, aka Mos Def, and this also features the great Jazz Outfit, Bad Bad Not Good. Love their album with Ghostface, and they've done a lot of good shit besides that also. JID's voice almost becomes another instrument in the beat, seemingly pitch shifting with his skill of having many different voices on full display here. And then we get to the last verse, and though his flow may have lost a step, Mos is kicking poetics. Like the old days, he says, the palace as the prison, retail religion, red carpet constriction, freedom as the fiction. Basically saying being rich and famous may seem like a goal that everyone wants to reach, but it really is a prison, and you have no freedom when you're a slave to material things. And speaking of being a slave to material things, the next track is Money, produced by the incredible Khrysis. Check his album from last year if you want to hear some real raw shit and a dope producer album. And on this as a whole, we got too many production teams, so it's good to hear a track with one great producer. Great line here from JID. He says, follow me forever, never fall too far behind, because I tell my testimonies, testaverdes at a time. Vinny Testaverde was number 16, and the traditional rap verse is 16 bars, so that's what he means by that. Further on, he has just a real nice run with these lyrics. He says, I gotta take it, paper chasing like I'm Dre or I'm Hove, yay with the clothes. Fuck Hulk Hogan and fuck Joe Rogan because it flows. You know how it goes. Need a bitch that's down with OPP and down with IPOs. Feel like ODB. You hoes better have my pesos. Hey, dirty, baby, I got your money. Yeah, referencing a Woo classic right there. Not to mention the Naughty by Nature track that he's referencing. Just some great wordplay with some letters and artist names in there. And even more on this track, I like how he goes from wanting to kill someone for making a bologna sandwich to wanting to kill for a bologna sandwich to illustrate the evolution of his success. Lauder 2, the last track, and the sequel to the last track of the Never story, keeping it very cohesive between the two projects. And I'm glad to hear that he's getting a little experimental here. We got an off-kilter beat, warbling, computerized bass line by Thundercat that most people couldn't rhyme to, and it really allows him to show what he can do. And he gets lyrical here too. He says, yeah, pardon me, but a part of me looking for more. Given my heart, my art, my artery, what do you want? JID's flow is on point, and he does not lose a bit of the hype that has surrounded this aspect of his artistry for the last several years. So many voices, styles, singing to fast rapping to innovative intonations and enunciations in his voice, creative song structure to boot, and he gets lyrical at times, though nothing like his boss, J. Cole, who stays lyrical track after track. And that's one complaint that I have with this, and it may piss you off. So let me say this first, that JID gets deep on this. There's several lines with deeper meaning and some introspective songs, but for the most part, he is what mainstream fans might call lyrical rap. While his lyrics are more potent than 99% of popular music, most of them are very surface level, and even the clever ones are basic. And if you're mad at me for saying that, then go listen to Lupe's last album and tell me this isn't lyrically at a lesser level. Secondly, the beat shifts are both a strength and a curse. At times, they're done right when they shift elements that they've already included of the song, or like at the beginning in the first few tracks when they're just introducing the beat shifts, and JID uses that to accelerate his flow. But after you hear it for 18 tracks, then it gets a little bit redundant and makes this whole thing sound disconjointed. So when I say these things, don't get me wrong, I was as hyped for this as anybody else, and I think he lived up to the hype. I'll be bumping this for a while in spite of its flaws, but because of those flaws, I can't elevate it into that AOTY conversation that I'm hearing some of you already having. So I'm going to bring it down to earth a little bit. JID has a cold flow, and this is a good album, but I'm going to give it a 7 out of a 12-pack. Thank you for watching my review of JID's The Forever Story. If you like this, go ahead and hit like now and hit me up in the comments if you didn't like it. Also, let me know why in the comments. I drop hip-hop and hops-related content consistently, so subscribe to my channel now. And until I see you next time, keep buzzing. Fucking man says subscribe.
But if he's on his channel saying that somebody's album is better than mine, unsubscribe to that motherfucker.
No, your album's the best, man.
There you go. Subscribe.
Yeah.
Subscribe.